internen Mikros sind bei beiden Kameras an und zeigen Pegel. Sollte jetzt soweit durch sein. Arbeitsfall, danke.
Good morning. Oppenheim as well from the acceleration track here. We're here together with my colleague Jonas.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties there. Anyway, we go over the start. It's they are just setting up the car at the moment, having a bit of a discussion about what the procedure will be. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about the procedure.
Yeah, so we're standing in front of the
Wohin du mich lieber, in der Winde oder bei der 3?
It's just a straight line drive, as fast as possible, of course. And once they're getting set up, some lights will turn on.
Egal, irgendwas ist, was man da halt gemacht hat.
Right now you're seeing a green light on the car, hopefully turn red flashing. There will be some more lights further down below. Once those turn orange, magic happens, and that's when the driver system is actually operational. Once they start flashing, the car will hopefully start moving and accelerate to go as fast as possible. At the end of the line, those orange lines should turn into solid blue. If they don't, and they start flashing, then that means a problem for the team, because that invalidates the run.
So these different lights, what they all mean. So the orange, the green one is the low voltage, right? All these cars are electric.
Exactly. So in this case, we have an electric car as the top of the main group. The green light right now is the T-cell. Lots of acronyms here in Formula Student. And that light indicates the state of the electric system itself. So that doesn't have anything to do with the driverless part. Every other electric car has a similar one. And then the separate lights that are specific to the driverless cars sit slightly below that. They are much bigger. They're just to keep everyone informed about the state of the driverless systems on the front.
Right, and we also have obviously a remote, control, more or less emergency stop, right? So we see one of the team members carrying a little box. What's that for?
Exactly. So with every driverless car, there's the remote person. It's this orange box you see one of the team members carrying. That's a remote shut-off for the car in case the car doesn't recognize that it's supposed to go in a straight line today. It's heading for a wall, heading for anything else that shouldn't. You can remotely kill the vehicle and it will immediately stop, and you can recover it safely, hopefully.
Yeah, so obviously normally you get 4 running lights per car. Usually it's 2 per driver, but there's no driver at the moment, so it's going to be 4 runs in total. Normally, with the driver, you can just go around the track and come back for the second run, but obviously these cars just stop somewhere in the orange cones area, and we have a nice space shuttle car here, which will carry the team members to the car, otherwise they have to walk all the way back and push the car back and so on. So they will get a little bit of assistance from the organizing, and hopefully they don't have to have a workout all the time.
And one thing you really see, especially with the driverless cars, that there is a lot of pushing back and forwards involved. So this year, the space shuttle, the white van is here to assist them in moving back and forwards a little bit more quickly and easily. Funny enough that you should speak about driverless drivers actually, because that is absolutely a thing. Maybe you want to explain why?
Yeah, of course. Every time the car is being pushed without power, then you need to have a driver inside. So actually, the driverless teams do have drivers, but only when the car is not active on the dynamic area. And that's because simply it's safety first. In the end, it's most sport. These cars tend to have an own will sometimes, what you don't want to do is having a car turned on when there are some people walking around in that area or in the pits. So that's why we always put a driver inside and can actually control the car, at least apply the brakes or hit the kill switch or whatever in case something happens. So that's primarily a safety feature.
Indeed, safety is most of the time the reason for any of the features on the cars.
Yeah, exactly, and let's not forget these electric cars. Well, we do have some combustion driverless cars, right? But most of them are electric, and they have the tendency to go backwards when least expected. So also all the marshals get briefings about safety and where not to stand in front or back of the car or within the envelope of the car. So as always in motorsport, it can be dangerous, so safety is first.
Yeah, definitely. You always got to keep an eye on the car to see what it might intend to do or not to do. It was briefly looking like we were going to see the car being lined up, but the autonomous lights turned off again. So we might be waiting a little bit longer.
Yeah, as far as we know, as most of you might know, these cars have to pass
a lot of scrutineering tests, both accumulator, electric, mechanical. So they actually
they have to do all the tests that normal cars do as well. They have to demonstrate the ability to run all 4 wheels with the driver, without the driver. And so they have, every car that we see here in the dynamic area, they have passed all these tests. But that's not always guaranteed that it will actually run the test that they are supposed to do.
One thing for certain that there are no guarantees in front of the student, and especially the driverless part makes it ever so more complex.
Yeah, but it looks like Augsburg team is ready to go because they're pushing the car towards the starting line. So we might have one of our first tries here very soon. And we see one of the officials putting on some gloves as well. With electric car, that's always a good idea. And probably do the last checks before he gives the car doesn't have really a green flag because the driver won't know it, but probably release the car onto the track.
Yeah, just making sure that the car is perfectly straight. It's the best chance of just continuing on that path. Don't see autonomous lights just yet, but in a minute, I hope, we get some action on track. The first run of the day, of course, always sets a little bit the benchmark. We are every year on the same piece of tarmac, but that doesn't mean that it's all equal. There's different temperatures, different weather conditions, different cars as well.
Well, potentially, Jonas, these cars have the ability to be quicker than all the other cars here, right? Because they don't have a driver.
Yeah, so you lose a lot of mass out of the car, depending on which driver we're talking about, 50, 80, 100 kilos. Of course, for the acceleration, you typically put very light drivers in the car. But in this one, there is no driver at all. Let's see how Augsburg does. So the orange lights indicate that the autonomous system is good to go. It was a very ambitious start. Let's see if we come to a successful stop.
Yeah, that looked really good as well.
Looks like a successful run.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Well done for Augsburg. And it looked really impressive as well. Do we have an indication of the time somewhere that we can see? Probably should look at the, there we go. Let me see what the time is of this car. Don't see it anymore. We'll check our timing screens.
It for sure was a very ambitious start, very aggressive run. That's always good to see. Over the years, the driverless cars have developed a huge amount from very tenacious starts in the beginning. We're now seeing basically a four-wheel burnout start. Great to see.
Yeah, so we got some feedback on the time here. It's 4.119. Actually, that's pretty good for a first attempt as well. And the the speed at the end of the run was 90.8 kilometers an hour. So that's very good actually for the first drive of Augsburg.
Yeah, so that's something that you can, of course, as a team also play with. You get 4 runs. Of course, you always want to make sure that you have 1 run in the bag, that you definitely earn at least some amount of points for the event. Now there are a few options for the team, I hope, to still adjust and maybe go even a bit faster. We were discussing earlier that maybe we can see some really fast accelerations this year.
Yeah, well, we know from one of the other competitions that I think this was a Karlruhe car that actually out-accelerated all the other cars in the competition with drivers. So that was pretty impressive. You can see that here as well, and we should be in for a treat. And just looking at this acceleration run from Augsburg, there was a lot of wheel spin at the beginning. Maybe they can tune that a little bit. We know from experience, Jonas, that helps a lot in the end. If you can reduce the amount of wheel spin. You always want some wheel spin, but not too much. It's getting it right is really the trick.
Yeah, getting the launch right off the line is the key part here. Spinning wheels always looks cool. It doesn't mean that that's the fastest way to do it. It looks like the Augsburg team is going to take the long way around, so we have some time to fill until they will be back.
Yeah, and we don't even know whether they will immediately do a second run or not. They might choose to go back to the pits. There's enough time. We are here until I think 12:30 on the track. So and only 3 cars have passed all the scrutineering, at least driverless cars. So they have ample time to try and improve and maybe adjust some settings on the car and come back a bit later. But we will see. We will keep an eye on them for you guys and maybe have some more action later on.
Yeah, of course, it's always a gamble when you decide to run. This year in Hockenheim, it's a relatively cool summer. There's lots of clouds going through here. We've had some slight drops falling earlier this morning as well. And if you can snatch a dry run, that's always going to be faster than a wet run. So teams also traditionally keep an eye out on the weather to make a decision whether to go for a second run immediately, whether to tune things. Interestingly, the wheel spin is probably going to be tuned in the normal systems of the car that another electric car would also operate, something like the traction control that you have in your normal road car. So that's not one of the autonomous systems that was giving it too much juice there.
Yeah, which is especially, I was thinking about the start, especially impressive because every time you have wheel spin, the car will go to one side. I mean, that's 99% of the times the car will drift to the left or to the right. So you have to, as a driver, always have to correct a little bit. And the way the car handled it is spot on. It was really, really impressive.
Yeah, you couldn't see it swerve at all. It was a very straight run line.
An der 6 die Fahrtemperatur bitte ein bisschen wärmere Farbe. Und Blenden ticken auf. Die wackelt gerade wie Sau.
Ist, weil ich die gerade einstelle auf dem Menüknopf.
Dass da vor dir so ein Mikrofon hängt, das blendet. Bezüglich der Kameramikrofone, wenn Justus und ich, weil wir eher an den Kameras bleiben, nicht jeweils die Intercom nutzen, dann kann der Typ zum Beispiel unser Funk kriegen. Voll die gute Idee. Kann die Intercom jemand vielleicht runterbringen? Geht die aber nicht.
Jakob, ist dir das besser von der Farbtemperatur her?
Falsche Richtung. Wärme. So wackeln. Michael für den Tauch. Der Lakius ist gestoppt. Was ist der? Gestoppt?
Well, Mickey, I have good news. It is that time of the day again. Time for hopefully another driverless acceleration run.
Yes, and this one should be a treat for everybody here. This is the, well, almost famous kit car that we've already talked about a little bit. This should be interesting, Jonas.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this earlier. There is a particularly good chance with this one that we might see driverless surpass the driver yes class again on this stretch of road. It's one of the disciplines that is shared between driverless and the normal cars. So here, the driverless cars, of course, have the mass advantage. They do carry some extra instrumentation and computers in the back, and sensors, of course, to be able to find their way around the track themselves. But you're losing that big chunk of meat in the middle of the car.
Dauert noch, bis sie endlich alle kommen.
Kamera 6, blende ein bisschen auf.
So we've already seen the driverless driver getting out of the car. Everything's getting set up. Lots of buttons being pushed.
Yeah, we can see one of the team members toying around with the laptop. What kind of settings do you reckon they are adjusting at the moment?
I would guess, from what I would do, is making sure that the car is in the right mode. I would guess that there's separate settings for the different disciplines. Just make sure that everything is set to the right things. Depending on the light conditions, you maybe also set the sensitivity of, for example, the cameras that these cars carry. On the kit car in particular, on the front, you see a very large sensor that's called a LiDAR. A laser radar sensor, so that detects the physical objects around the car. On some teams, I can't see it on the kit car here, but some teams also carry in the main hoop above the driver's head lots of cameras. That's usually to detect the colors of the cones and also the positions of the cones themselves. So. Of course, you build some redundancy into the car with that as well to make sure that it always works.
Because do you need the cameras with the acceleration, for example? Because you have a line of cones on the left side and a line of cones on the right side, right? And you might be able to just use the LiDAR. Not sure how that actually works, to be honest.
I think each team probably does it slightly differently, as always. From my point of view, the more the merrier, the more information you can use, the more you can also discard and not use in case something goes wrong in the detection, anything like that.
Yeah, but let's not forget, like having two sources of information and overlaying that and filtering out. Sometimes when there's the contradiction between the two information sources and what you do with them. So that requires some processing power as well, right? So if you can do it with one system, in my opinion, that would be like simple and easy, instead of having two systems and then also have a whole post-processing and doing something with all information. So that's interesting choice, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's of course more than one way to skin a cat. You could, I'm not sure if the rules necessarily allow this, but you could also just try and point the car as straight down the track as possible and hit go.
Yeah, maybe we have if you look towards the end of the track, there's an orange object, and you can just tell the car go towards that one, and when you're inside the orange cones area, just brake.
Yeah, exactly. Once the car spots a set of slightly taller cones, that's when it stops.
So there are ways to cheat, because I'm not sure whether is the software code being well reviewed by the organizers or something like that. Did you know?
I think we need to discuss that in a second because the autonomous system is live.
Well, that was interesting. It started off well, but then it bugged down a little bit, and then it went again, and then I think it stopped within the cones, but it did hit at least one cone, and it did have a little bit of wobble. So I'm not sure. The time was a 4.25, so a bit slower than, which is very, very good, but still a bit slower than Augsburg did a couple of minutes ago. I'm not sure whether this is this a valid run or not.
That's a good question. You see what I believe is a blue autonomous system indicator flashing, which means that the car stopped itself. Okay, so we're getting word that was indeed a valid run. The team decided themselves to stop, or to shut off the car after it stopped. So that was a valid run, one in the bag. That's always good. But even though they hit the cone that wasn't on the track itself, they still hit a cone, which is not something that you're supposed to do. So they will still incur a small penalty for that. Yeah,
but still, maybe one cone. I think I saw only one flying. One penalty added, that's like 0.25, I think, added to their total time. So it's still a very decent time. And there was something on the launch. That wasn't 100%, was it, Jonas?
Yeah, it didn't. It looked very good at the just initial start, but then it sounded like the car itself was backing off the throttle again. So I think what happened here is that with that initial lunge, the timing line tripped, and then as the car was slowing down again, that's where you lose the time and acceleration.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if they get that fixed, it will be an easy time below the 4 seconds, because you lose a lot of time at the beginning, and you carry out the lack of speed. You carry it all the way through the end of the acceleration run.
Exactly. The start is the most punishing here at the acceleration track, as always.
But it's again very promising. We've had 2 cars with 2 valid runs so far. So. Well, we've been talking to the one of the scrutineers as well, and actually this is very similar to one of the scrutineering tests they have to perform, which is the autonomous brake test. Actually, it's the same thing. You just accelerate a little bit and then hit all the brakes and come to standstill. Obviously, this is more controlled, and the acceleration part is longer, and also the control and the stop is also a bit more controlled. And you don't have to block all 4 wheels. But in principle, it's the same thing.
Exactly, it's just more on the line. The brake test you can more or less repeat as long as you want. This is slightly more exciting, timed as well. But I'm very happy with the timing board so far. We've seen times that would be decent even for the driver teams. So far, so good.
Yeah, let's not forget, 2 years ago we saw a lot of failed attempts on the acceleration. We saw a lot of cars driving 1 meter and then going left or right towards the wall. That the ERS guy had to perform the emergency stop. So we haven't seen that at all so far.
Exactly, 2 very straight runs right off the bat, and I think that's also something that we've seen on the practice track yesterday, for example. Over the years, Driverless has come a long way, so that we can now here have a team roll up, have a couple of minutes to get set, and then the run actually commences. Whereas before you would sort of wait a little bit, see if the car accepts the challenge, and then maybe it got scared and you had to back down again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've seen the improvement in all these driverless cars. I think 2 years ago we barely had 3 cars driving in the beginning, and I think in the end was like 4 or 5 maybe. So let's see whether later this day and then tomorrow we will have maybe 8, 9 cars. I think about 5 cars still in scrutineering that still need to pass the autonomous braking test, obviously. But if they manage to do that, then there's a very good chance that they will be able to put in at least 1 lap on the acceleration.
It's always good to see more teams making it through scrutineering as the day continues. We are still here for another 2.5 hours or so, so there's plenty of time in the day left, and we will now hopefully see relatively quickly if Kit decides for another run quickly or if they head back to the pits. There's lots of meters being made here with the car being pushed, especially at acceleration. Lots of walking up and down, so we will see in a minute if they come back.
Yeah, I think the organizers have laid out the track that the team members get some workout, because they have to push the car all the way from the straight on the Hockenheim ring all the way to the back and re-queue again, and then also the exit is just right on the other side. So the team members, they get a workout, and the driver is just enjoying his time in the car, I guess. But we'll see whether they come back for another run. We will keep an eye on that, and whenever there's some action, then we will come back to you.
Das wusste ich nicht. Achtung, kann ich jetzt an der verstellen?
Vorsichtig aber bitte, die ist drauf.
Kannst du meine dafür draufschalten?
Nein, wie gesagt, Hip, du bist rechts unten, kleinen Hip.
Ach so. Ist der Weißer vielleicht besser?
Ja, Blende bitte.
Kann ich die so lassen?
Hinten auch wieder.
So Jonas, we have get back again. So they, we saw them working on the car a little bit. I saw the laptop being used to adjust some settings. I saw one of the team members also counting some orange cones. I think they were measuring also the width of the track. So I think they had all the input parameters they needed for the adjustment. What do you reckon they changed on the setting? Can you speculate on that?
Well, we did see the car in the braking zone do a little swerve, so that's probably why they ended up counting cones to see how long the braking zone in the end really is. Get some more information on the track itself, see how wide. So it sounds to me like calibration adjustments in the autonomous system itself for sure. The car itself, so the underlying platform should be okay.
Yeah, but most of the run did look really good. We saw at the very beginning the car holding back a little bit, and also we have the 10-meter time, which was 1.36 measured in. After the start line, there's another beacon positioned in 10 meters, and that one indicated 1.36, which is a bit slower than the previous car from Augsburg, and I think they in the end that counts towards a higher time. But let's see whether they get the drive off really perfect this time, and B, the braking zone at the end maybe a bit more controlled in the middle of the track.
Yeah, so that's a few tenths or even hundredths off the start line can mean great things at the finish line. So even though the speed difference between the two runs that we've seen so far wasn't that big, they do still, the numbers do explain what happened.
Yeah, and let's not forget, maybe that was a banker lap, or maybe not even a full power setting, because you can adjust the power setting on the motors as well, right? So normally you can just, with a driver, you have full power, you can just go at it and use all the available power which you have in the batteries and the motors. And maybe the first two runs or first run is just cautious one, getting in a time, at least getting some points on the board, and then maybe take a bit more risk towards the second, third, and fourth run.
Especially for the electric cars, you have very, very granular control over how much power, how much torque is being delivered for four-wheel drive cars like this one, each wheel individually. So that's definitely something you can also still turn the screws. One advantage that the driver cars have over the driverless cars is that you can scream at your driver, grow some bigger balls, and keep the pedal pressed straight off the start line. So let's see if they manage to perfect their takeoff performance here.
Yeah, and then just we're just watching the team position the car, and they're very strict or precise about it. What's the idea behind that, Jonas?
I think it's just to give the car the best chance to accurately detect both lines of the cones, because you might expect that both the blue and the yellow cones mean something to the car. And you can also see that some of the cones down the track are actually used cones, so they're a bit smudged. The car also needs to be able to handle things like that. So there's just reliability is everything, and if you can spend a little bit more time on an otherwise empty track to set up the car just so, then why not?
Yeah, it's nice to see that it's being done with millimeter precision, right? You have the two team members at the back and pointing the car. It's like when I'm moving and redecorating my house, someone always says a bit more to the left, more to the right, no, go back. Actually, that's what we saw here as well. But the car should be now perfectly positioned. At least they did everything that they could do to position the car right exactly in the middle of the track. And let's hope that they manage to get the drive off. And then I'm betting. Care to wager a bet, Jonas? What kind of time do they will they be able to do?
I think we should see sub 4 seconds here easily, especially on the second run. But even if not, there are multiple more runs for this team still to go afterwards. So I think we will definitely see sub 4 seconds here.
Well, I would say 3.98. That's sub 4, right? So that should count.
I will go with 3.95.
Well, bets are on.
not just the beds are on, also the autonomous system is on. Let's see what is about to happen here.
Well, we almost saw exactly the same thing that happened previous time. This was also, unfortunately, not a time below the 4 seconds, also 4:26. But again, as we saw a lot of wheel spin, and the car did drift a bit to the left, so the car had to correct it a little bit. And then it went pretty straight towards the finish line. But then again, exactly the same thing happened. It clipped one cone and then also made a strange swerve. So they didn't really, were able to fix the problem, whatever it was.
Yeah, the car definitely seems to have an affinity for the left side of the track. This time in the braking zone, it actually managed to hit 2 cones. And also straight off the start line, you could see that it was heading towards the blue cones more than towards the right of the track. And yeah, you could see the car trying to correct, successfully managing. I think the launch was actually a lot better than the first run. There was no hesitating there. But still, the straighter you go, the faster you go.
Yeah, but just like we said earlier, if there's any form of wheel spin or a lot of wheel spin, then it will drift to one side. So well done for the car that caught the swerve. Indeed, at 4:26, so actually 1/100th of a second slower than their first time, and their 10-meter time was at the 100th one exactly the same, so 1:35. Curiously enough, their end speed was a bit higher, just 1 kilometer, 88 kilometers an hour, compared to the 87 kilometers an hour for the first run. So very, very similar runs actually, both in time but also in execution.
I mean, consistency is also key, especially if you want to still improve things. So now you have a couple of more data points to line up that at least similar things happened with the car. Let's hope they can still improve for their 3rd and 4th run later on. My guess would be that they are now taking a bit of a break in their pits, look at the data, see what you can still improve. We will keep you up to date when more cars arrive here on track.
So Jonas, we have Stuttgart team here, the driverless team anyway. We just took a look at the car, and it looks like one of the old green team cars, right, Jonas?
Exactly. So as a measure to take off some of the pressure from the driverless teams, the rules allow you to use an existing driver car and retrofit it in essence. So that's why you see a lot of the cars carrying what looks like a small backpack on the back. That's usually where the extra computing power is housed. You see a lot of extra sensors mounted everywhere above the driver, on the nose, on front wings. We've seen a few different implementations there. But because the focus is so heavily on implementing the extra sensors, the extra software that you need to make this happen, that's a measure to keep cost and effort down on other sides.
Yeah, and we saw one of the officials approaching the car as well with a little electronic box. He plugged it into the car. What's that? What can we tell our audience about that?
So that was a box that is there to test the one of the electrical safety systems. It's called the IMD. And that measures the insulation of the high voltage system of the car to make sure that that system works. It will shut off the car if it detects a short circuit. And that box is the smallest, the highest expected resistance that system should see.
Okay, so it's actually an extra safety feature just to check before the actual test on the acceleration. Okay, so I think they're almost ready to set up the car. I think they already positioned it, right? They're not so picky as the kit car actually. So they just drove it up with the driver. He aligned it a bit more, well, more or less in a straight line. I think they have a lot of confidence in the AI to position the car while driving. They have a bit more confidence than the kit car, I guess.
They definitely seem very relaxed, and now the officials, of course, lining up very precisely on the start line. That is usual. That also happens for the non-driverless cars. And now we're retreating and getting ready for the run.
Retreating, you never know what happens. Actually, the idea is that nobody stands in front or at the rear of the car. At least not in a place where you can be hit if the car goes backwards. So now we see one of the team members, the safety officer, actually initiating the procedure, and we'll just wait for the lines to come on. It will be interesting to see what kind of time they will be able to do. The fastest time at the moment is a 4.12. If they manage to beat that, and maybe we will see a sub 4-second run. That would be amazing.
Yeah, after the betting disaster from last time, I'm not hedging any bets for this one. But the team does seem very confident. They already took a seat in the space shuttle as well. So the autonomous system is live. Let's see what the car can do.
Well, something went wrong there. I'm not sure whether it's a Windows boot error or something else, but you did see the car, the blue lights flashing, which is, as a reminder, it's an indication that something is wrong, something didn't go as planned, so the car shut itself off. I don't think it was the safety officer that pressed the button, but I couldn't really see.
No, I think the autonomous officer there pushed the shutdown button on the remote box that they carry, and we'll see if we can have another run, if they can just reset the car. or if they need to push back. There are no teams waiting in queue, so they can take their time.
Yeah, also this doesn't count as a run, does it? I think the run counts at the moment that you cross the barrier and when your time begins. Just before that you can actually do whatever you want, as long as you want, as long as there's no queue and time permitting, obviously. Maybe this was it took a long time before the car did anything, right? So maybe that's why the safety officer had to end the sequence and maybe restart it or reboot it or whatever it's called. I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of runs, we have to make one little correction. We were mentioning earlier that the teams were allowed to complete 4 runs. That actually turns out it's only 2. So unfortunately, that means that we won't be seeing any more from Karlsruhe this time.
Yeah, there was a bit of a discussion as well, also among the officials and the teams. But the final word was, and this is really final, every driverless team gets 2 runs. So not 4. So that means that you can only be safe or cautious on your first run, right? Because then the second one you just have to take a bit more risk and just go for it and get the maximum potential out of the car.
I think that actually makes it more similar to the driver categories as well, where you place a lot of importance on each run. Now we have the autonomous system enabled again. Let's see if the car is willing to go down track this time.
Well, we did see a slight movement from the car. I'm not sure whether it actually tripped the beacon or not. I don't see the time running at the moment, so they might be lucky because of a very slight movement, and actually it looked like the car hit the brakes as well, so it just stopped after a couple of centimeters off the line. They might be lucky because if they didn't trip the timing beacon, then this will also not count as a run, right?
It shouldn't, and yeah, we did see some difference to the first run. So in the beginning, there was the autonomous system didn't accept the track driving challenge. So now we've actually seen the orange lights flashing for a brief moment, and then instantly the blue flashing, indicating that the car was triggering an error and refusing to go.
Yeah, and well, as complex as these autonomous cars are, because it's an electric car, which is already complex by itself, with all the electrical requirements and so on. Added up on top is also the whole software and the LiDAR and detection and routines and so on. So these are very complex machines, right? So everything, a lot of things can go wrong in the boot or in the software or whatever. And also, let's not forget, these teams only have 8 people on site. Sometimes these teams are quite big, maybe 20, 30 people with their own expertise. They're not always on site here, so they only have 8 people, and you can actually see one of the team members picking up the phone and calling someone, whether it's a helpline at home or some special guy who made the software or whatever. We don't know, but that's always going to be a challenge.
So as a concession to make Formula Student be able to happen in the first place this year, the team member count is significantly reduced to what you would usually see, especially some of the big teams bring around. That adds extra challenges. Of course, yeah, you might need that one person that isn't here right now. And speaking of complexity as well, there are a lot of connections, a lot of things that can go wrong in an electric car indeed. But I also think a driverless car in general is a challenge. Also, the combustion cars have a lot of extra system tagged on top of the combustion platform already. So I think regardless which powertrain you go for, this is definitely an extremely complex machine to operate.
Yeah, but if I look at the cars, the autonomous cars that are here, and also the other competitions, then it looks like that the electric cars are preferred for being autonomous instead of the combustion cars. I know 2 years ago in Italy we saw a couple of combustion cars which were not autonomous, and those were really cool. I think one of them is also here this year, so we will, well, hopefully we will see them on track, because it's just really cool if you have a revving engine and then an autonomous drive. But why is that still preferred then, electric car above the combustion car for being autonomous?
Well, as we already talked about, the electric cars from the get-go are just more set up to be controllable through software. The combustion cars in some cases still have mechanical throttle bodies in the car, whereas in an electric car you definitely have an electronic throttle pedal and then also an electronic brake pedal already. So you already get those inputs that you need the autonomous system to also be able to output. Of course, one challenge that's equal, more or less equal, between combustion and electric is steering. So you have to still add an extra motor in there, but just from the interface side of things, you just plonk the autonomous system between the throttle and the brake in an electric car, whereas in a combustion car that's slightly more tricky.
No, it sounds so easy, Jonas. It's well, anybody can do it, right? No, it's all kidding aside, it's very complex, and every team that actually manages to pass all the scrutineering tests already, which involves already autonomous driving elements, that's already a big achievement. And a lot of them, unfortunately, won't be able to make it. That's what we know from all competitions. But every team that passes it is just already well up there in performance.
It's definitely already a big separator between being able to make it to the competition in the first place, to have a car that in theory can drive, to then make it through scrutineering. Like you said, that already involves driving in and of itself, and then also deliver a run here on track. There are a lot of hurdles that you have to take as a team to be able to deliver a time.
Yeah, speaking about hurdles, it looks like the Stuttgart team, well, they're looking at the car, but it looks like they decided to well, maybe push it back and see whether they can. Yeah, there's the push bar or the pull bar, whatever you want to call it. And they will probably go back to the pits or just put the car on the side and maybe try to figure out what the idea is. One of them is already calling with the home front, with the team behind the scenes, and let's hope they can manage to solve the issue and come back later on.
Kann der Jakob auf dem Heimweg beim Tipp vorbeilaufen und auf den Weitergleich schauen? Jo.
Well, so fortunately, Jonas, we didn't have to wait too long for the next car, because we have the Norwegian car from Trondheim, the Revolve car, at least the autonomous team. Very nice looking car. I think they used one of the previous cars as well, which is totally fine. And I think they elected to leave the rear wing somewhere in Norway probably, and only use the front wing. Does that make sense to you, Jonas?
Yeah, whether or not something makes sense is of course always hard to judge. Most of the time the teams have good reason to do or not do something. In this case, I could imagine that a little bit of extra downforce at the front for an acceleration run actually helps you, especially for a four-wheel drive car like this. You get a little bit more traction on the front wheel as well, so that means you can actually use all four motors much better to accelerate.
Yeah, maybe also as a platform for some sensors, maybe. We've seen a lot of these wings being used as a stable platform for a LiDAR or some camera sometimes. Sometimes they utilize, of course, we can see here the main hoop, I think. There's a bit of a sensor there. And sometimes they use the front wing. So that actually would make sense to me. Let's see whether they can get the car ready. I think they were quite confident coming up to the line, and I think Christian, one of the officials, told them, well, if you're ready, just go up to the line and I'll position the car in the end. Just give me the go-ahead. I'm wondering whether they will remember to remove the wheel covers, but we will find out soon enough.
That would, of course, be a good one. Yeah, of course, confidence doesn't mean that the car is going to go. But they are very much hard at work. Like you said with the sensors earlier, we did see some other cars just use the front wing as a mounting tray, big sensors mounted there. In this case, we only see a LiDAR underneath the top of the main hoop. I didn't see any other sensors on the front of the car, but that can also be deceiving. And then a lot of extra systems tagged on, like the autonomous lights, pressure bottles for the pneumatic brakes, a lot of other little boxes in the back for extra computers again, so definitely a retrofitted electric car.
Yeah, and also if you have a big integrated wing in there, right, with a compact design, then you will probably not be able to reach the backside of the car very well. So you will always have to bend and use a snake person or whatever, or a very small child to reach those parts. So actually it might be just a little bit practical thinking to, well, let's take off the rear wing and add some static downforce by bringing in some boxes and electronics and so on. So it might be just a bit of a combination of practicality as well.
And who knows, they might also have their rear wing in their luggage for the tractor, for example.
Yes, because we do see and also what maybe we might take into consideration, because we see diffuser at the end, right? So they do something with the airflow beneath the car, and maybe the front wing is very important for that, to guide the aerodynamics or the flow of air in the right way beneath the car, right? Because otherwise you might have, the first thing that the air encounters is all the wheels, and that's always a big, messy job in airflow. And so it might be just also a combination of front wing and the diffuser in the end. We don't know.
Yeah, traditionally the rear wing is a very plumb, brute force method of generating downforce. The front wing and underbody tend to be a lot more finicky and intricate in that regard. For acceleration, I think they've chosen an interesting setup. We'll see what comes down later the line. It looks like we're not quite ready for a run yet, but.
Yeah, and I think whatever you choose, front wing, no wings, whatever wing configuration you choose, the way you present your car to the scrutineers, that's the way you have to run in the competition as well. So once that decision is made, there's no turning back, or the other option is go back to re-scrutineering, but that's usually quite a hassle, and you don't want to be doing that during your competition. So this is the way that we will see the car drive all the tests in the autonomous competition.
The scrutineering is actually a very integral part of the competition schedule. So we now have the dynamic days here, but for the last days already, the teams have been busy in discussions with the officials about the safety of their car, about the rules compliancy of their car. So this is the driving part is the shorter part of the competition, I would say.
Yeah, and let's not forget they start with the safety and rule compliance way before the competitions, right? In all the uploaded documents, and you have to show the scrutineers that you're compliant in rules, and it starts months before the competition already. So being rule compliant is is quite a serious thing here.
It's a long struggle for sure, and especially for the autonomous cars, there's even more documentation that you need to be able to submit beforehand. So the design process needs to be aligned also with the type of documents that you need to submit to participate.
Well, it looks like the safety officers, I think he switched on the car. I think he pressed like 12 buttons or something, I don't know. But they seem confident that it will go, so it looks like the car is on. Anticipation is high, as always, but let's see what kind of time they will do. Yeah, we do see some very nervous team members, which I can totally imagine. And we hear the drive-off sound, at least. Orange lights are flashing on the cars, which is considered to be a good item. It did go off, but it just went off track. Unfortunately, I think the safety officer, also killed the car. Didn't want the car go towards the wall. That's never a good ending for any car. But they do have another run left, so let's hope they can fix the issue, whatever it is. It was a very slow and cautious start, Jonas. What could you tell about what
cautious start, and then just continuing in the sort of straight curve. Maybe the car wasn't giving any steering input, and definitely a good idea to abort instead of running the car into a wall. But beyond that, it's hard to tell what went wrong really without knowing the insides of the car software itself. So now we're waiting for the team to recover their car. I think they can just pull it straight back to the starting line, and if they elect to do the second run immediately, of course.
Fortunately, they don't have to go all the way back on the track and do another workout. I think it's like 10 meters, something like that the car went. I think it even, just about tripped the 10 meter line as well. Yeah, it did, definitely. But we'll see whether they can get it going, and maybe they can figure out what happened.
War das gerade ein Justus? Wenn ja, dann höre ich.
Ich habe keiner gefragt.
Gleich.
jemand auf dem Weg, so in der Mitte, weil ihre ITler wollen halt Dinge und so. Der Michael ist auf dem Weg zu euch. Okay.
Hallo. Sind die alle leer oder was? Ja, der ist mal dumm. Und der, wo hast du den hergezaubert? Warum hätte er nicht so lang? Ich weiß aber nicht, wie gut der geladen ist. Weil das mit den Ladestationen da oben ist ein bisschen mangelhaft. Und wo sind die ganzen anderen Akkus? Das war der letzte, der da jetzt noch steht. Die am rumhängen.
Ist da gerade?
Wo? Drüben.
Ja.
Ja.
Das ist da.
Steht fest.
Das heißt, hier wird immer zwischen die beiden schieben.
Nein. Zwei parallel stehen.
So. Wer kriegt den zweiten
Du bist dauerhaft im Auge. Es gibt da nichts zu sehen. Es gibt dieses Fett, das ich dir geschickt habe. Jetzt noch hier nochmal ein Bild. Das ist so. Dauerhaft zu hören. Und dauerhaft zu hören daneben.
Drei Autos und durchgeschoben.
Zwei gefahren.
Ja genau, und zwei standen am Start. Eins ist 3 Meter gefahren und dann nach links aufgebrochen. Und das andere ist 10 Zentimeter gefahren und jetzt weiter.
Danke, Gott.
Tschüss.
Audio.
Well, Mickey, exciting news from the driverless acceleration line. We have Prague aligned here for a potential run. It's a very compact, stubby-looking car. What do you think of it?
Actually, I like it. It's small, it's clean. It does your job, hopefully. And that's all you need, I guess. Again, here you see the car without the rear wing, but with a front wing. And actually, what we were just speculating about the previous cars, we actually do see the sensor on the wing at the front. You see some teams they elect to put the sensor on the main hoop, and some choose to do it on the wing. What are the pros and cons for those choices, you think?
Well, it's obviously a difference in field of view. So the further back you place the sensor, the more you can still maybe catch the sides of the car and where that is in relation to the cones that those sensors detect. But also in terms of height, for example, here at FSG, the track drive track is bumpy, so you might be in a divot, and with a sensor mounted as low as the Prague sensor here, right underneath the nose on the front wing, you might miss out on some cones that are further away. And the further away you can see the cone, the further away you can start avoiding the cone.
Yeah, so when it's low, then probably the cones look bigger, so probably easier to detect when they're close. But then you have to redo it every time there's another cone within the field of sight, obviously. I would be interesting to see to hear. Maybe you can find out from the teams what made that decision. What is the driving wish or driving requirement to position the sensor that way?
Well, one deciding factor might already be, especially if you use an existing car, that there might literally be no packaging space. So if the car was designed pre-driverless or without any of the sensors in mind, the dimensions of the roll hoop just might not allow you to safely place the sensor above the driver's head. The car still has to be drivable with a human driver inside for part of the scrutineering for the brake test, but you also might want to, as a team on your own time, opt to run the car with the driver inside. So yeah, it can just be from the previous car itself.
Yeah, maybe you don't have a choice. So there's no other option than to place it somewhere and just go with it. Let's see. They were pretty quick up to the line, and they seem very confident. Not a lot of adjustments to the car at all. They seem ready, but we've seen that with Stuttgart as well. So that didn't really provide us with a good end result in the end. But it doesn't matter. We have Prague here now, and we'll see. I think the time to beat still is the
4.19.
The 4.112, I think. 4.12. 119.
Right. 119.
Yeah, exactly. So you missed one. But I think the start will be will tell us a lot because that's when you actually win or lose the acceleration in the end. We've seen a couple of failed attempts today. We only have less than an hour to go on the driverless acceleration. We have the time here until the 12:30. I don't think there will be any time extension as we look at the Prague car.
So it looks like the T-cell turned green again, which doesn't look promising for actually starting the run.
Yeah, I think also the official Christian is explaining them what the procedure is now. They have the option to restart it again, so they do get a sort of a rerun, but they didn't actually commence a run, so it's not a rerun. But they do get the option to try to fix the car, maybe even push it back and go at it again. I'm not sure whether it's structural issue or just maybe a boot issue, because I don't think they changed anything. It's just rebooted or reset
it back on.
Yeah.
The autonomous light is yellow again
Mm-hmm.
and flashing. That looks promising. The same error happening again. And now the question is whether Trondheim waiting in the queue is ready to go. looks like Prague might have to be pushed back.
We actually have a queue today, Jonas. This is a first. There's a first for everything, I guess.
Positively stressful
we
here.
Do, actually, we have to divide tasks at the moment. But I think the Trondheim car, well, they seem ready. They don't seem like being very busy. I think they do get another shot at it, though, from Christian. So maybe Trondheim said, well, let them go again and let them try again.
Yeah,
we will wait patiently.
Pressed, a yellow light. Fingers crossed. So the autonomous officer just shut off the car. It doesn't look like this will be a run for now, but at least we have another car lined up.
Was it the autonomous officer?
I think the technical term is the autonomous system officer, the ASR.
ASO. Okay. Good to know. Unfortunately, that wasn't the run. One of our media guys was hoping for a nice little shot of an autonomous car driving off, but we'll just have to try with another car though. But they still have the 2 runs to go. They can try. They can push back and reset the car or check the settings or whatever. In the meantime, I think Trondheim will do another attempt.
It's also quite interesting to see now that we have 2 cars to sort of compare side by side. That even though the idea of driverless is so unifying, the approach to it is still quite different. I think the Prague car is especially sleek looking. There's relatively little extra hardware mounted outside of the car, whereas on the Trondheim car you see a lot of extra bigger hardware mounted as well. I think that just speaks to the previous cars as well, how much care was being placed there in packaging everything correctly.
Yeah, I mean, these cars do have a bit more space, and I guess sometimes they can just put some stuff inside the car or some boxes, and sometimes they just bolt it onto the back because that's easier access in the end. Then again, also you have to make sure it's watertight, right? Because they do have the rain test, and Germany is known for its rain showers every now and then. So it's not a bad idea to, if you place it on the outside, then do a proper rain test for them.
Especially for the electric cars, the rain test is always a very gruesome test because if you fail, then that usually means that something significant has gone wrong, and then it's always a lot of work to clean that mess back up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you should know you've done a couple of those as well. And I heard there were, well, at least a couple of teams that had a sort of a accumulator pool party when the accumulator box actually accumulated a lot of water during the rain test, and they had to really dry it again, which is a lot of work, a lot of painstaking work as well. So not a very fun thing to do if you, I don't know, you didn't close the lid or whatever, then it will get soaked and it will be a pool party within the accumulator case.
Yeah, accumulating things. If anyone has ever dropped, God forbid, a hairdryer into a bathtub, then you all know that that doesn't mix very well. And these cars are allowed to run up to 600 volts DC from the accumulator. That will cause some short circuits, water in the wrong places.
Yeah, fortunately, the safety systems in the car will shut off the car. And even though we've heard a number of batteries being flooded with water, we haven't heard any major incidents or whatever. So that means that the safety systems that have been scrutinized before the rain test actually work, and they did their job. Exactly.
So the main test there is also something that we've seen the officials here check with the cars occasionally. The IMD, the insulation monitoring device, checking exactly that, the insulation of the high voltage system. There are a few other checks actually that the officials will occasionally force the cars to do to be able to validate their runs. So another important aspect with the electric cars is also to make sure that all things that can conduct are actually grounded, so that there is no stray voltages or shocks potentially happening there.
Yeah, and let's not forget all this carbon fiber is a conductive material. You have carbon fiber, you have a lot of steel parts, and
Aluminium too.
aluminium. So actually all of these parts are conductive materials. So you really have to make sure that they're all grounded and there's no residual leaks, voltage leaks or whatever. So I think that's a good test, and I think also the way they scrutineer the cars here, also the order in which they are being scrutineered is also very important, because they do the accumulator by itself without the car
And the charger.
and the charger. Let's not forget the charger again. And then they do also the electrical scrutineering of the car by itself, and then after that, when both tests are passed, obviously, and the mechanical scrutineering as well, only then are you allowed to go to the rain test, for example. So the order in which they are scrutineered is also quite important.
Yeah, so you progressively turn up the risk, essentially, that something can go wrong in scrutineering. It hasn't, of course not. That's the whole idea. It looks like the Trondheim car is going to push up to the start line here in a minute and attempt their second run. Hopefully they can go in a straight line this time. Maybe one thing that I haven't seen many other driverless teams do are actually wheel covers on the car. Back from my days, this was always a bit of a religious question. Do you want wheel covers? Do you not want wheel covers? The whole idea is to protect the tires from picking up dirt and grit and stones, of course. But then again, you also have very quick accelerations from the cars usually happening that clean the tires off again. What do you think the effect would be to show up to an acceleration with dirty tires?
It's difficult to say, obviously. I mean, maybe you just clean off the dirt in the first couple of meters. Maybe it sticks a bit more. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? So if you put on some wheel covers, I mean, cleaner, they won't get dirtier. And that, I mean, if it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt either. So I think it's a very small effort to protect your tires. A lot of teams don't do it. They just don't really believe in it. So they don't want to take the hassle. If you have very easy wheel covers, like Revolve does, they can very easily put it on and off. Then it's, yeah, of course, then you should do it. Also, let's not forget, here on the track where we're standing now, it's quite clean. There's not a lot of dust or rubble or pieces of rubber or whatever. But on the way here from the pits, you might pick up some stuff as well. So it won't be a lot, but you know, every little thing helps. And sometimes these competitions go really to in the milliseconds. And then everything you can do to accelerate your car is something that you should do. So it won't be that tight today, I imagine. But sometimes we see a very tight competition with the electric cars, and they are battling it out. And it's really very small margins sometimes. So everything helps.
Yeah, the timekeeping equipment here is also extremely sensitive. There's a lot of sensors, not just laser beacons, but also cameras placed here for the acceleration track. So if you can make your life easier, protecting your tires is a good thing.
So we do have here the right sounds, and we do see the flashing orange lights at the moment. And there we go. And goes. Oh, unfortunately, the autonomous safety officer did have to press the emergency kill button again, because the car, well, in retrospect, went to the left side when the first one was to the right side. So
at least it did go the other way.
At least it did something else, but unfortunately, it did trip the beacon as well. So they had 2 runs, and that's it for them at least. But maybe they are able to to fix the car and maybe for the afternoon session for the skip pad.
Exactly. There are other sessions that they can show their prowess, and we've seen with the other cars as well that just being able to get the car off the starting line here is already an achievement. And once Trondheim manages to recover their car from the track, we will actually see Prague do another attempt. Let's see if they can get it off the line. So it looks like we're actually building up a little bit of a queue here. Now the action is on here at the acceleration.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, they're coming thick and fast. We actually have 5 driverless cars in the area of the driverless acceleration. So this is a treat for us this afternoon, or it's still in the morning, but we only have 40 minutes left. And if you see how much time these cars need to get prepared, then yeah, well, you should be in the queue already, I guess, even when it's with 5 cars. So we have Prague back on the line, and this would be interesting to see whether they can get it going again.
It is not flashing the yellow light just yet. And it looks like they're going to have to abort again. They actually shut the car off now. Yeah. And with more cars in the queue, I think they will have to push back again, yeah. Give the benefit of the doubt.
Pretty much car. The same thing that happened the first time, I guess, Jonas?
Yeah, no change really. There was it didn't trip the timing beacon, so no run was actually wasted here, but it's a bummer that they can't get started right.
Yeah, these cars sometimes they do have their own will, don't they?
They literally do. I mean, they drive by themselves.
Sometimes the computer just says no.
Exactly.
And anyway, yeah, well, they still have 40 minutes to fix the car, and then they will just be able to queue at the back. And I think now the Stuttgart car is coming up for the driverless acceleration. And although the driver is really eager to go, he won't be allowed to go because it has to be autonomous.
Shaking in the car, rattling the steering wheel. I'm not sure if that's going to make it any faster for the driverless part. Maybe one thing that we can also spot looking at the... Oh, Prague is actually going for another attempt.
Yeah, I thought because I saw someone wielding the push bar, so I thought maybe they given up, but they got another chance to go, but it has to be the right one.
This time it's flashing and actually setting off. Nice. That's unfortunately an aborted attempt, so just like with Trondheim before.
Exactly the same. They have a tendency to go to the left. Exactly. I think it went off exactly in the same spot as
the same cones, I think.
So maybe they shared settings or something, I don't know. But yeah, well... unfortunately, they didn't finish, but now we have another potential coming up with the Stuttgart team.
They, of course, had a previous attempt already, but since the car didn't actually set off from the line, they are still allowed to do 2 runs, or 2 attempts at least. If we take a look at the the scrutineering status of the driverless cars here, it's also becoming pretty clear that we won't see that many more cars joining. However, it is good to see that we have the team from Roma joining us here in the queue. That also means we'll have a slightly different sound atmosphere in a second. But there is only a very small number of actually driverless cars that made it through scrutineering at this point.
Yeah, let's not forget Roma is one of the, well, the only combustion car which is autonomous here in the competition, I think. And they made it through all the scrutineering tests, so that's already very good achievement from them. And I'm really looking forward to this one because this is an awesome car. If they can get it going. I know 2 years ago they did it, I think, in Italy as well. And that just looked awesome. It sounded awesome as well.
Yeah, so one of the big reasons that car has a lot of credit within the Formula student community is also a big divider between the electric cars, of course. The Stuttgart car that is queuing up here right now, of course, has 4-wheel drive electric motors. Prague, that we've seen before, is on 2 wheels, 2-wheel drive. And Roma actually managed to build a 4-wheel drive combustion car, which is a bit of a rarity in our community here. We see lights turning on the Stuttgart car. Nothing yet on the autonomous front, though. And it looks like the case that Mickey already mentioned, computer says no.
Well, most of the time it's just a question of rebooting. I have to do that every now and then as well at home.
Have you tried turning it back off often again?
Maybe the update of Windows has to be installed first before it works. Yeah, but sometimes that's the only thing you can do, right? Just trying again, maybe something in a boot. But we see it a lot. I don't see a lot of tries and immediately after someone opening the laptop and looking at the settings. It's just sometimes just turn everything off and turn everything on again.
Yeah, I think in that regard we've seen quite some development in the driverless category as well over the years. So previously you would also wait longer for the car to start, and now in this event already we've seen quite some flow, quite some action for the driverless class. We've come a long way so far, but on the Stuttgart car it does look like it is refusing to engage at the moment.
Yeah, and the autonomous safety officer is trying everything she can do to get the car going, but for now it is refusing to go. Not sure whether the wheel is also turned a little bit, the steering wheel. Not sure whether that's
like the brakes are still on. The official was trying to move it a second ago.
Yeah, there's no brake is on, then probably won't be able to move it very lightly.
And the next car is being waved to the queue. So Stuttgart is yet again going to have to pull back and give Roma the preference here.
Now this should be interesting. We will have a lot of sound probably, as with most Italian teams. They have a very nice sounding engine, which we love, obviously. We love the smell, we love the sound, and this should be very interesting. And well, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, even for me as an electric guy, this is pretty impressive to see. You've got to give some props to the overall quality of the car too. It is extremely sleek looking.
Yeah, especially also the one of the exhaust parts. It's very rainbow colored. It has all the colors of the rainbow, and it looks just really cool. Also the shape. I really like the shape of the car. It's simple but very elegant.
I think one of the lights facing rearwards is also has the Batman logo incorporated into it, because I think it's justified. It looks like a Batmobile. looks like on the Stuttgart car there's a bit of finagling going on with in the pedal area, so the brake was indeed jammed on.
Yeah, it still is. You can see the light is being activated, the brake light. So that means that somehow the car is just refusing to move. Whether it's pushed or on own power, it's not going anywhere at the moment. It's just I'm staying here, I'm fine here. But it looks like now they got it solved, and nope, only they got the light solved, but not the braking actually. We have half an hour left in the acceleration for the driverless vehicles. We look up, Jonas. I don't see a lot of rain coming. We every now and then we feel a bit of a drizzle, but nothing major so far. And maybe, well, hopefully it will stay this way, so we can actually complete the driverless acceleration without any proper rain.
Yeah, so far it always looked like it might rain, but we've been lucky so far. So I think even though some lighter and darker clouds keep on going overhead, we'll stay dry at least for the last half an hour here.
Yeah, and looking at the Roma car, which has been positioned near the start line of the acceleration, I also this huge fan at the back of the car. It's very nice addition to the overall look of the car.
You're a fan of that?
Huge fan. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
That is, of course, maybe a discussion for later, but one of the major rule changes or rule differences compared to previous years is that the use of the fan is more free. We won't see the effects of this necessarily on the driverless cars, but later on down the weekend, maybe already at the skid pad.
Yeah, there we go. So the Uni Roma car just started the engine. It started up without any major issues. Just within a second it started.
And immediately the autonomous light turns on as well.
That's so quick. That's quick.
We're ready for a run here, I think.
Yeah, and you can actually hear the car actuating the throttle, which is really cool. First gear, yeah, there we go. This looks really awesome. This looks really good, really good. Now stop. Yeah, awesome. Wow, cool drive.
Super straight.
Very good, very nice, awesome drive. 5.19. So, looking at the time, it wasn't the quickest, but it just sounded and looked really awesome.
And the team is also cheering here on the start line, yeah, extremely ecstatic.
Which I can totally imagine, because this just looks pretty cool. And of course, Italians, they know how to party and they know how to cheer. This is really cool. Now they have to collect the car, and they have to be they have to be quick about it as well, because they do want to do a second run. They have a very good banker lap. It was impressive to see. Also the driving off. It selected first gear without a hitch. It drove off really nicely.
Very swiftly, very decisively putting the time down, going extremely straight. We've seen some of the other cars swerving a little bit and losing time before. This was a very good run.
Yeah, it only swerved a little bit in the beginning. In the first 10 meters it swerved a little bit, but after that it was just accelerating straight, and there was absolutely no hiccups whatsoever. And also it waited a little bit, as far as I could see, after the end of the acceleration before it applied the brakes, and it was very controlled, and again straight. That's straight inside the box.
Yeah, dead straight in the braking zone, and also waiting a little bit once you're across the line is of course just keeping it safe. You don't want, or we've seen it before in previous years where cars would stop just shy of the finishing line, which is of course a big shame.
Yes, and well, looking at the next car, Jetzt geht's los. It says on the wing anyway.
We have the second run for Augsburg being lined up here.
Yes, they've had already one run, right? They were the very first one this morning.
Exactly. They are still the ones with the fastest time of the day so far. We also see them setting up a little bit more meticulously than some of the other teams and being centered and straight. Maybe that's something that Roma can try for the next run to eliminate that little swerve and gain some more time. Now we're just waiting for the track to be cleared. by Roma, and then the next run can commence.
Yeah, what I also noticed about the Roma car, it was very quick to boot up all the software, and it was very quick. It was turned on, and immediately you could see some action from the car by itself. So that was actually quite noticeable.
Yeah, that also depends, of course, on the underlying platform that they built their software upon. That's going to be different from team to team. I don't think there are any rules on that just yet, but who knows?
Yeah, so now we've got Augsburg. Their fastest time this morning was a 4.12. And let's see where they can improve on that. That would be really awesome. Very good, nice drive on, very straight. Across the line in a 4.00 brake. And actually blocking all four wheels. But I think it's within the
brake test again.
Just put it on brake test modus. Very well done. Wow, cool achievement. A 4.00. And the first 10 meters was completed in 1.28. So that's already 7/hundredths of a second faster on the first 10 meters. And that, well, obviously translates to over a tenth in the end result.
Yeah, like we've been saying, it's all in the start. There was a little bit of wheel spin, but that's to be expected. And then from there on out, it was just straight acceleration, keeping it very straight and nice under control. And then extremely aggressive braking in the braking zone. You could see tire smoke kick up from all four wheels.
Definitely demonstrated the ability to lock all four wheels, but that wasn't actually the assignment this time. But hey, they managed to do it in a very impressive time.
Absolutely, and I hope they can also manage to recover the car in an impressive time. There are still 2 cars in the queue here. I think they will make it just in time, but just in case we run into any unforeseen issues with the cars again.
Yeah, that's only they won't make it only if there's some major issues with starting the car. But normally they will be able to at least have a couple of tries because Augsburg is done. We know that total time car was already done. Kit is done, so over half of the cars have completed their driverless acceleration.
At least half of the cars that can run at the moment that have passed scrutineering.
So we see the car from CTU Prague being pushed off. I saw the driver, being annoyed, hitting the steering wheel, as I've done in the past a lot of times as well, when something broke. But they didn't really look happy about. Well, obviously they weren't happy about the situation. So we only have, did have a queue, which miraculously disappeared.
Yeah, both of the cars that we had here in the queue are now retreating. Prague looks like they will be pushing back to the pits. They still have 23 minutes to come back here and go for another run.
Yeah, all the good things come last. we saw a very impressive drive from Roma. They can come back still, so we expect them at least to do a second run. And obviously we saw a very good improvement of the time, 4.00. So Augsburg is ahead by a mile.
Yeah, it looks like they definitely turned the right screws in the software again, improved the launch, improved the straight line again, and maybe if the Roma guys do the same, we can see a bit of a race here.
Okay, so we just informed we were informed by the officials the acceleration time, actually, because we started earlier, and then I think that's the confusion. Actually, I thought it was 12:30, but the officials just informed us that it's 12 o'clock, and they have to finish the acceleration event for the driverless vehicles. I think now the idea is that the organization is setting up the track for the drivers' cars, so the normal cars or the old school cars, and it's a bit wider, as we can see. All the cones are being put in the right width of the track. And well, in the afternoon, I think it will be 1300 hours, 13:30 maybe, so 1:30. Probably we will continue with the acceleration for the electric and combustion cars.
So the acceleration for the driver cars, at least the way I see it here in the schedule, is starting at 1:15, so just over an hour.